What happens in chapters 9 and 10 of Robert Louis Stevenson's Jekyll and Hyde? Let's find out. How's it going, Revision Squad? It's me, Liam, aka Mr. Knight, aka DystopiaJunkie, and in this video I will be concluding my summary of Robert Louis Stevenson's Jekyll and Hyde by looking at Chapter 9, Dr. Lanyon's narrative, and Chapter 10, Henry Jekyll's full statement of the case. You see, although Utterson and Poole find Hyde dead in Chapter 8, Utterson also finds an envelope addressed to him that tells him to read a letter from Dr. Lanyon and to then read a stack of papers that make up Jekyll's story. That is what these chapters cover. It's been a while since I've uploaded a video to this channel, so if this one helps you out, please do let me know. You could give it a like, write a comment on it, share it around with anyone else who might benefit from watching it, and you could of course subscribe to my channel too if you aren't already. That positive engagement really helps me and the channel out, so thank you so much in advance for it. Okay, so what happens in Chapter 9, Dr. Lanyon's narrative? So Dr. Lanyon's narrative begins when, 4 days ago, he received a letter from Dr. Jekyll. Now this shocked him, because although he and Jekyll were good friends, they weren't really in the habit of exchanging letters. In this letter, Jekyll gives Lanyon a very specific set of instructions, which are to break into Jekyll's cabinet, remove a drawer plus its contents from Jekyll's cabinet and take it all home, and then give all of this to someone who will visit Lanyon on Jekyll's behalf at midnight. Although Lanyon thinks his friend has gone bonkers, he follows through on the requests anyway. Inside the drawer is a white crystalline salt, a file that is half full of a blood red liquid, and a book that contains a list of dates and some notes. All of this confuses Lanyon. If this is just another of Jekyll's many experiments, why is he taking it so seriously? Despite being perplexed, Lanyon brings the drawer and its contents back home. At midnight, as promised, he receives a visitor. It is a small, odd-looking man who is wearing clothes that are far too big for him. I wonder who that could be. Now Lanyon instinctively dislikes this small fellow. He finds something about him disturbing. He puts those feelings to one side and tries to make conversation with him though, but the small man repeatedly insists that he sees the drawer. So Lanyon retrieves it. After this, the small man mixes the salt and the liquid. The mixture goes from red to purple to green. The small man then speaks with Lanyon, asking him if he is curious about what the concoction could possibly be for. He does warn Lanyon though that it possesses devilish qualities. Lanyon, however, remains curious. He states that he is now too involved to not know what the potion is for. As such, the small man drinks the potion and transforms into Jekyll. Lanyon is absolutely sickened by this revelation. It shocks him so profoundly that he is unable to make himself write any more about it. In fact, he is so shocked that he thinks he might die. He closes his narrative by disclosing that Jekyll revealed that the small man he was only moments earlier was in fact Hyde, the man who murdered Sir Danvers Carew. If this is where Chapter 9 ends, what does Chapter 10, Henry Jekyll's full statement of the case, reveal? So Chapter 10 begins with Jekyll explaining some things about himself and his life, stating that he was born into a wealthy family, was naturally inclined to be hard-working, and that he likes to be respected. Within this, though, he explains that he has always had two sides to him. A joyous, over-exuberant side that he keeps private, and a deadly serious self that was his public persona. These two sides, he acknowledges, contradict with each other. He lives, he feels, a life of profound duplicity, or in other words, a sort of double life. This double nature completely shaped Jekyll's existence, for as he grew older, his scientific research became increasingly mystical as he sought to address what he saw as the duality of man. Jekyll explains how he wanted to split his two sides in half, for he found living a duplicitous life to be unbearable. His serious public half wished to be free from the risk of being disgraced by his private self's desires, whereas his private self wished to be freed from the high standards and guilt held by his public half. And Jekyll actually made some progress with this, for he managed to make a drug that allowed him to access a second form via a painful transformation. A form that expressed the lower, or in other words, the eviler and more depraved, elements in his soul. Once freed from the standards, reputation and public appearance of his original self, Jekyll felt happy, re-energized and ultimately wicked. He called this second form Hyde. This second form appeared smaller than Jekyll and younger too. Now this made Jekyll question if this is because he had spent so much of his life being good. His eviler self, in other words, seemed less developed or less experienced. Jekyll used the Hyde form to take part in undignified pleasures that Jekyll's high reputation and advanced years forbade him from indulging in. As his narrative continues, Jekyll explains that he started using the Hyde persona so often that it made sense for him to make his servants familiar with Hyde so that they weren't confused by the new entity's presence at Jekyll's house. He also explains that he made Hyde the sole beneficiary of his will. Jekyll also explains that he was fascinated by the villainous depravity that the Hyde persona allowed him to take part in. Now that includes trampling on the little girl that we saw in the opening chapter of the novella. Jekyll's account then takes a turn for the worse. He describes how he unexpectedly and unwillingly woke up as Hyde one morning, meaning that he transformed in his sleep. Up until this point, the transformations were intentional, following Jekyll drinking his potion. As such, Jekyll is very shocked, and he starts to form doubts about what he has been doing. Consequently, he swears off the potion. 2 months later, though, Jekyll gives in to temptation, drinks the potion again, and transforms into Hyde once more. Hyde is furious at having been locked up for so long, which leads to a fit of rage in which Sir Danvers Carew is murdered. Following the murder of Sir Danvers Carew, Jekyll is deeply regretful, and so he locks himself away and tries to lead a saintly life. Hyde, who is caged up once more, is incredibly angry. Despite his best intentions, though, Jekyll unexpectedly transforms into Hyde in the middle of a public park one day in January. Knowing that Hyde, a murder suspect, cannot be seen at Jekyll's house because of the implications this would have for Jekyll's reputation, Jekyll decides to write a letter to Dr. Lanyon. Jekyll's narrative then catches up with Dr. Lanyon's story. After Jekyll reveals his relationship with Hyde to Lanyon, he struggles to keep Hyde at bay. The smaller, more wicked man appears to be gaining power, for Jekyll needs to create stronger and stronger doses of the potion in order to reverse the transformation. Unfortunately, though, Jekyll finds out that he is running out of the salt he needs to make the potion. This is made even worse by the fact that subsequent batches of the salt used to make the potion do not work properly, leading him to believe that the original version of the ingredient had some unknown impurity in it that made it work. Jekyll then closes his account by saying that he will soon die, and that Hyde will permanently take over after that. He says that he does not know what will happen once Hyde is in total control. And that is where Stevenson's novella comes to an end. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have found it to be helpful and you're looking forward to seeing me finally being able to make videos about Jekyll and Hyde once again, please do let me know. You could give this video a like, write a comment on it, share it around with anyone else who might find it useful, and you could even subscribe to my channel too if you haven't done so already. I hope that you have an awesome rest of the day. If you are studying or revising, please do remember to take frequent short breaks, as a burned out student is not a happy or successful student, which is what I think you deserve to be. So in chapter 9 we learn that Jekyll, revealing himself to also be Hyde, shocks Dr. Lanyon so profoundly that he dies. Whereas in chapter 10 we learn that Jekyll's long-standing scientific and mystical interest in the duality of man is what leads him to try to split himself in half. A split that likewise ultimately leads to his death.